morning of April 12th. Gagarin and his backup, German Stepanovich Titov, are sleeping soundly without sleeping pills. Wake-up call at 6 a.m. local time. Morning exercises are a must, even on such a remarkable day. A very light breakfast, a small bit of cottage cheese and a little sour cream. And Gagarin even grumbled something about it, saying they could have fed them better. Then, getting dressed. They dressed, boarded the bus, and, as you know, from the training center at Baikonur to launch pad 2. It's about 20 kilometers, they arrived quite quickly. Pre-launch preparations begin according to plan and protocol. Gagarin must be on board. He is on board.
I am ZARYA1.
Pre-launch preparations are underway. Korolyov keeps Gagarin entertained with all sorts of talk, since there's a live connection. He wanted to distract him from heavy thoughts.
And so they got talking, they got carried away, the launch command had already been given, the liftoff contacts had triggered, and Korolyov continued his sentence and said, well, have a safe trip. To which Gagarin, oh, yes, let's go. And he really did wave.
Ignition.
Running. Ignition. Confirmed. Liftoff. I wish you a good flight. I am ZARYA1. We all wish you a good flight. Everything is normal. Let's go. Feeling excellent, continuing flight, G-force is increasing slightly, vibrations, everything normal, feeling excellent, mood is high.
The flight, as is well known, lasted 88 minutes. But don't think Gagarin was singing songs there, he was working continuously. He conducted tests, he tried to eat, it worked, to drink water, it worked, psychological tests. Many believe that an astronaut in zero gravity would simply lose their mind, so the entire control panel was locked, and it could only be unlocked by entering a code that was in a sealed envelope. A person who had lost their mind wouldn't be able to read it. The code was 25. I see the ground, I can distinguish the terrain, I see a forest, receiving. Completed one orbit. There were no particular troubles. The separation of the upper stage from the Vostok ship was slightly delayed. The ship entered the atmosphere. The Vostok ship is uncomfortable. G-force of 9.6. Gagarin, as a trained pilot, withstood such G-force and landed. Nearby, collective farmers were working. They heard a powerful bang and saw two parachutes. One was very large, carrying the spacecraft, on the other descended the astronaut in a bright orange spacesuit with USSR written on it. When he landed, a stern crowd of farmers surrounded him and demanded identification. You never know who might be coming down from the sky. It turned out Gagarin had his ID. He presented his pilot cosmonaut credentials, and universal delight began. Then the search team ran up. Back then, they were a little behind. Nowadays, they catch ships on the fly. They snatched Gagarin from the tight embrace of the enthusiastic farmers. A short medical check, a helicopter to Baikonur, another short medical check. Everything is in order. And then our truthful Soviet radio spoke up, announcing that, literally just now, the launch of the first spacecraft in human history had taken place. The ship is being piloted by a citizen of the Soviet Union, a pilot cosmonaut, and Gagarin is already on the ground. The Vostok spacecraft with a man on board ascended into space and, having flown around the globe, safely returned to the sacred soil of our motherland, the land of the Soviets. Exactly 2.5 hours later, the flight time from Baikonur to Moscow, you could see a huge transport plane with an escort of 7 fighter jets. The highest honor, Gagarin was brought to Moscow. They landed at Vnukovo and were met by enthusiastic crowds, quite similar-looking people, with similar bouquets. They were shouting and rejoicing in life. The plane stopped with flare right at the ramp. They didn't bring the ramp to him. He stopped right at the ramp. Gagarin steps out, a universal shout, and Gagarin kept looking at his major's shoulder straps. You see, he took off as a senior lieutenant, but he landed as a major. Then the music began to play. He went with a measured step to report, and then he saw that his shoelace had come undone, and everyone saw it dangling 1/2 meter back and forth. As Gagarin himself later recounted, I saw that the shoelace had come undone. But what was he to do? Say, wait, let me tie my shoelace. That would be somehow awkward. Well, I realized, he said, if I step on it now, I'll sprawl out in front of the party and the government. Comrade First Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, I report to you that the world's first spaceflight was accomplished on the Soviet spacecraft Vostok on April 12, 1961. All systems and equipment of the ship worked precisely and flawlessly. I am feeling excellent and am ready to fulfill any new task from our party and government.
Майор Гагарин.
He was driven through all of Moscow and placed on the mausoleum, and a strange rumor spread through Moscow that one could see the first cosmonaut in Red Square. That same day, right there, all of Moscow passed through Red Square, and everyone got a look at Gagarin. And in the evening, right there, a press conference for Soviet and foreign journalists. Not a bad workday for a man who got up at 6 a.m. local time, and had a press conference in the evening. That was when everyone understood who Gagarin was. It was such a correct choice, and he gave such clever, good answers. The first question from an American correspondent, please tell me, what sum of money did you receive for the first spaceflight in human history? Gagarin calmly replies, I am an officer of the Soviet Army, I have enough funds for existence, and the honor of performing the first spaceflight is more important to me than any money.
I am an ordinary Russian person, of whom we have very many in the Union. Just like tens and hundreds of thousands of Soviet young men and women.
And that was when everyone appreciated his intelligence, his charm, and his composure. He was a unique person in that regard, with a tremendous strength of spirit, which allowed him to perform those feats of his with dignity.
I am very glad that the honor of carrying out this first space flight fell to me. Well, that was, naturally, of course, just the beginning. Just reconnaissance of space.